Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because you want to go deeper, and today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're jumping right into Chapter 9 of Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
That's right, the chapter titled The Army on the March.
And our plan today is pretty straightforward. Unpack the core ideas here, the real substance of this chapter.
And crucially, see how these, ancient military concepts might still offer some useful perspectives for us today. We're using the Project Gutenberg text, looking at Sun Tzu's words and some of the context around them.
Okay, the Army on the March. The name says it all. Really, it's about movement, logistics, how an army operates when it's not static.
Mhm.
And right away, Sun Tzu tackles something absolutely fundamental. The ground itself, the terrain.
He does. And he doesn't just say terrain is important. He actually breaks it down meticulously into 9 different categories.
9. Okay, let's hear them.
We've got dispersive, facile, contentious, open, ground of intersecting highways, serious, difficult, hemmed in, and finally desperate ground.
Wow, that's specific.
It is. And the key thing isn't just memorizing the names, it's understanding what each one means for strategy. How does the ground dictate your next move? It's all about adapting.
Right. So let's take the first one, dispersive ground. What's the thinking there?
Well, Sun Tzu says flat out, don't fight on dispersive ground. His reasoning is, if your soldiers are close to home, their minds are already turning towards going back. That desire weakens their resolve.
Okay. Like trying to get maximum effort from a team on a Friday afternoon when they can smell the weekend.
Exactly. That pull of the familiar, it just erodes commitment. Then you've got facile ground. This is when you've entered enemy territory, but maybe not very deeply yet.
And the advice?
Don't stop. Keep pushing forward. The idea is to avoid getting caught or letting the enemy regroup and react easily. Maintain that momentum.
Makes sense. Keep them guessing, keep them off balance. What about contentious ground? That sounds important.
It really is. This is the kind of territory that gives a major advantage to whoever holds it. Think high ground, a key bridge, something like that.
So what do you do?
Sun Tzu is crystal clear. Get there first. Occupy it. It's like grabbing the best real estate in a developing area. First mover advantage is huge.
Like a strategic choke point.
Precisely. It's
Yeah.
not just reacting, it's proactively identifying those key spots and making a decisive move. Think about controlling a vital communication hub today, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what's next? Open ground.
Open ground. This is where neither side really has a built-in advantage. It's level playing field, so to speak.
And then the strategy here.
Keep your forces concentrated. Don't let your army get split up or spread too thin. It's like focusing your resources on one main effort instead of scattering them.
Right. Maximize your impact where it counts. And ground of intersecting highways.
This is terrain with multiple routes, lots of ways in and out. Good for logistics, maybe, but also for escape. Sun Tzu says, form alliances here.
Alliances. Why specifically there?
Well, it suggests a need for options, for networks. If there are many routes, maybe you need partners to cover them or secure them. It's like a business building strong partnerships for better reach and resilience.
Having multiple connections, backup plans. Okay. Then serious ground.
This is when you're deep in enemy territory. You've left fortified cities behind you. Retreat isn't easy. The key here, Sun Tzu says, is to ensure continuous supply. Forage, plunder if you must. Keep the army fed.
So it's about the harsh realities of logistics on a long campaign.
Absolutely. Supply lines get stretched. Sometimes you have to live off the land. In a modern sense, maybe it's like adapting your resource management when operating far from your home base.
Got it. And difficult ground. Sounds obvious.
Yeah, things like mountains, forests, marshes, narrow passes. The advice is pretty straightforward. Don't set up camp there. Keep moving. Get through it quickly.
Minimize exposure in risky places.
Exactly. Too easy to get ambushed or cut off.
Yeah.
Think about navigating, say, really complex regulations today. You want to get through efficiently, not get stuck.
Makes sense. What about hemmed-in ground?
This is confined terrain where maneuver is restricted. If you get there first, Sun Tzu advises occupying the high sunny spots and waiting for the enemy.
And if the enemy is already there?
Then it depends. If they're well dug in, don't attack. If their position looks weak, maybe you press. It's very situational. Demands good intel.
Assessment is key. And the last one, desperate ground.
This is the place where there's no escape. You fight or you perish. And Sun Tzu's famous line here is simply, fight.
When your back's against the wall?
Precisely. There's no other option. It forces a certain kind of clarity and commitment. We'll probably come back to that idea.
Yeah, it feels like a powerful psychological point. It's amazing how these terrain types, while ancient, really highlight understanding your operating environment, whatever that might be.
Totally. Knowing the landscape, the logistics, the strategic points, these are timeless.
Yeah.
It applies way beyond just marching armies.
Okay, so after laying out the importance of terrain, Sun Tzu shifts focus a bit, right? To reading the enemy, interpreting their movements.
Yes, exactly. How do you respond to what the other side is doing? And some of his advice here sounds, well, almost like common sense, but it's foundational. Like not attacking an enemy uphill, or fighting against the current if they hold the high ground across a river.
Right, don't fight gravity or the terrain if you don't have to.
It's about conserving energy and avoiding positions of inherent disadvantage. Why make things harder for yourself? In, say, business, maybe that means not trying to beat the market leader head-on in their absolute strongest area. Look for a different angle.
Find their weakness or a niche they aren't covering. Makes sense. What else?
He warns against pursuing an enemy that's retreating but doesn't seem genuinely routed.
Ah, the feigned retreat, the trap.
Could be. You need to distinguish a real collapse from a tactical maneuver designed to lure you in. A hasty, disorganized retreat might be real, an orderly one. Be suspicious.
So observation and judgment are critical. Don't just react.
Absolutely. And another interesting point, don't press too hard on a desperate enemy. Don't attack elite troops who seem calm and collected. And crucially, don't completely block off a retreating army's escape route.
Wait, why not cut off their escape? Isn't that the goal?
It seems like it should be, right? But Sun Tzu's insight is psychological. An enemy with absolutely no way out will fight with unimaginable ferocity. Cornered animals are the most dangerous.
So leaving them some hope of escape might actually weaken their overall resistance, because some might just run.
That seems to be the idea. You might encourage desertion or surrender rather than forcing a bloody last-ditch stand. It applies to negotiations too, maybe. Leaving the other side some room to maneuver might be better than backing them into a corner where they feel they have nothing left to lose.
Fascinating. It's really about understanding the opponent's mindset, not just their physical position.
Exactly. Picking your battles, avoiding traps, understanding the psychology of pressure.
Okay, so then Sun Tzu really digs into observation, right? The signs chapter. This part is incredible.
Oh yeah, this is where he becomes like a master detective on the battlefield. He lists all these subtle signs of what they might mean about the enemy's state or intentions. It's all about interpreting clues.
Give us some examples.
Okay, like if you see birds suddenly taking flight from a wood or animals startled and running, that could mean an ambush is hidden there or troops are moving through.
Wow, okay.
Or dust clouds, he gets specific. High, sharp columns of dust mean chariots are advancing. Low, wide clouds suggest infantry on the move.
So you can tell what's coming by the dust?
Potentially, yeah. Dust rising from scattered spots might just be men gathering firewood. Dust that hangs low and doesn't move could mean they're setting up camp.
That's amazing detail. What about their words or posture?
This is really interesting. He says, if the enemy uses humble words, but you see them increasing their preparations, watch out. They're probably planning to advance.
So don't trust the words, watch the action.
Right. And conversely, if they use really violent language and make aggressive moves forward, like they really want to fight, they might actually be preparing to retreat.
That's the counterintuitive one again, like a bluff.
Kind of. Maybe trying to intimidate you while they pull back. Or if their light chariots come out first and position themselves in the wings, that's a sign they're forming up for a battle.
Okay, what else?
Peace proposals offered suddenly without any real sworn agreement or commitment. Suspect a plot or deception.
Don't fall for empty promises.
Exactly. And troop behavior tells you a lot. If soldiers are seen running about, then quickly falling into rank, that signals a critical moment is at hand. Time for battle.
Sense of urgency.
If you see part of their army advance and then part retreat simultaneously, that could be an attempt to lure you forward into an ambush.
The classic lure.
Yeah. And signs of the army's condition. Soldiers leaning on their spears or halberds. They might be fainted from lack of food.
You can gauge their supply situation just by how they stand.
According to Sun Tzu, yes. If the men sent to draw water drink it themselves first before taking it back, the army is suffering from thirst.
These are incredibly specific observations.
They are. If the enemy sees an advantage to be gained, but makes no move to seize it, they're probably exhausted.
They lack the energy or will to act.
Right. If birds gather over their encampment, it might be empty. They've left. Clamor or shouting in the camp at night indicates nervousness or fear among the troops.
So noise at night isn't strength, it's weakness.
Often, yes. If there's a disturbance or lack of order within the camp itself, It suggests that generals' authority is weak. If their flags and banners are constantly shifting about, could be signs of confusion or even sedition, mutiny brewing.
Wow. Internal problems manifesting externally.
Precisely. If the officers appear angry and short-tempered, it often means the men are weary and worn out.
Taking it out on the troops.
To be. And one of the grimmest signs. If you see the enemy feeding grain to their horses, killing their oxen for food, and the men hanging up their cooking pots and breaking them, not planning to return to their tents,
What does that mean?
it means they're determined to fight to the death. They burn their bridges, literally and figuratively. They expect no return.
That is chillingly practical.
It is. And this whole section, this incredible list of signs, it just hammers home the value of paying attention, of really observing.
And interpreting what you see, it's not just about looking, it's about understanding.
Exactly. And while we're not looking for dust clouds in the boardroom, the principle holds, doesn't it? Reading the signals.
Totally. It could be a competitor's sudden hiring spree, a shift in their marketing tone, weird fluctuations in their stock price, even body language in a negotiation. It's all information if you know how to read it.
It's about cultivating that perceptive awareness, looking beyond the obvious. Sun Tzu provides a masterclass in it.
Okay, so we've covered terrain, reacting to the enemy, observing the enemy. What else does Chapter 9 get into? There's a bit on command, right?
Yes, the psychology of command and the army itself. One interesting point he makes early on is that you don't necessarily need more soldiers than the enemy.
Really. Numerical superiority isn't key.
Not always. He says being roughly equal in number can be sufficient if you avoid direct, head-on attacks and focus instead on concentrating your force effectively. It's about where and when you apply your strengths.
Smart deployment over sheer mass.
Exactly. Achieve local superiority at the decisive point. That matters more than the overall count. It's about efficiency and focus.
And he warns against complacency, right? Underestimating the opponent.
Absolutely. That and the need for forethought, for careful planning. Assuming your opponent is weak or predictable is a classic, often fatal mistake. You need realistic assessments.
So respect your adversary and prepare thoroughly. What about managing the troops themselves?
He talks about this crucial balance between attachment, loyalty, trust, and discipline. It's tricky.
How so?
Well, if you punish soldiers before you've built any kind of bond or loyalty with them, they just become resentful and won't obey properly.
Okay, makes sense. You need buy-in first.
But on the other hand, if you've built that attachment, that loyalty, but then you fail to enforce discipline and orders, your army becomes useless. They won't follow through when things get tough.
So you need both. Trust and clear rules, clearly enforced.
It's a leadership tightrope. Build camaraderie, make them feel valued, but also ensure they understand the standards and the consequences. That's how you build a cohesive, effective unit.
And the general's own attitude matters too.
Hugely. Sun Tzu stresses the importance of the general projecting confidence combined with an insistence on obedience. If the leader seems uncertain or hesitant, that doubt spreads like wildfire.
Confidence inspires confidence.
But has to be backed by the ability to make sure orders are actually followed. Strategy without execution is pointless. Confidence without discipline leads to chaos.
And he ties this back to terrain, doesn't he? How different leaders handle the ground.
He does. He contrasts a capable general with a weak one. A good leader understands how to use the different types of ground we talked about, dispersive, difficult, hemmed into their advantage. A weak leader gets hampered by them, makes mistakes, gets caught out.
So skill in leadership allows you to turn the environment into an asset rather than a liability.
Perfectly put. It brings that whole terrain discussion full circle, connecting it directly to the quality of command.
Okay, so stepping back from Chapter 9, the Army on the March, what are the big takeaways that still feel really relevant today?
Well, first, definitely the idea of understanding your terrain, your operating environment, whether that's a physical place, a market, a political landscape, whatever. Knowing the inherent advantages and disadvantages is step one.
Agreed. And second, for me, it's that power of observation, really learning to read the subtle signals, interpret the clues. That feels universally applicable.
Absolutely. Whether it's competitor analysis, reading a room, understanding group dynamics, Sun's detailed examples just show how deep that can go.
Yeah. And the principles of leadership seem timeless, too. That balance of trust and discipline, the need for confidence, understanding the psychology of the team, that's just as true for managing a project team as an army, fundamentally.
Building that effective, cohesive unit.
And I keep coming back to that idea of desperate ground, how being backed into a corner can sometimes unleash unexpected strength.
Yes, That idea resonates because we see it, don't we? Companies innovating under pressure, people finding resilience they didn't know they had when faced with huge challenges. Han Hinson putting the river behind his troops, it's a classic example. Removing the option of retreat forces maximum effort.
Necessity and resilience combining. It's a powerful concept.
It really is. It shows how constraints can sometimes become catalysts.
So that was a pretty deep dive into Chapter 9. We know Sun Tzu doesn't stop there. What's Chapter 10 about? Can you give us a quick preview?
Sure. Chapter 10 is titled simply Terrain. So he's doubling down on the topic.
Going even deeper into the ground itself.
Exactly. He talks about 6 specific ways a general can bring calamity upon his army through failures related to terrain. 6 key errors to avoid.
Okay, so pitfalls related to the ground.
Right. And he emphasizes again how vital it is to know not just your own terrain, but the enemy's as well. And he offers more guidance on how to act, how to adapt your strategy based on different ground conditions.
So it sounds like it really builds directly on Chapter 9, offering more tactical and strategic layers based on the environment.
Precisely. It's more about leveraging the land as a strategic weapon, you could say, and avoiding the traps it can present if you don't understand it properly.
Looking forward to that. Well, this has been fascinating, really digging into the army on the march. It's always striking how much wisdom is packed into these ancient texts. Thanks for walking us through it.
My pleasure. Always good to revisit Sun Tzu.
And thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope unpacking Chapter 9 has given you some things to think about how understanding terrain, reading signals, and the dynamics of leadership might apply in your own world.
Definitely worth reflecting on.
We'll be back to explore Chapter 10, Terrain, next time. Until then, feel free to ponder what other source materials or big ideas you'd like us to tackle here on the Deep Dive.